Who is now Ohio State's greatest challenger in the Big Ten? It's not Rutgers, we know that. But then Penn State comes to Ohio Stadium. Then Ohio State goes to Michigan. And after Minnesota's win over Penn State on Saturday, Minnesota has the inside track to win the West and meet Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. Minnesota is undefeated. Iowa and Wisconsin both have 2 losses. Minnesota finishes with Northwestern, Iowa, and Wisconsin. They're looking pretty good. So we thought maybe Penn State was number 4 in the country coming into Saturday. They lost at Minnesota. I think we all would have said Penn State a week ago. Who's the biggest test left for Ohio State? It's Penn State. Who is it now?
I think it still might be Penn State because Ohio State is guaranteed to play Penn State. They're not guaranteed to play Minnesota.
Okay. Let's assume they play Minnesota. So we're not going to play. It's not a game of who they might play. Let's assume it's Minnesota. So just put that as your baseline. It still could be Penn State, though. It can still be your answer.
Yeah, it's still Penn State is my answer. Just because they still have to get. I think Penn State, is going to come in here like that's their way through to get to the Big Ten championship at that point in the season. Because Ohio State's going to be undefeated going into that game. Penn State's not undefeated going into that game, and so they need a head-to-head win, and so both teams can have one loss, and it will give Penn State the edge to get into the Big Ten championship game. So I'm still going to say it's Penn State over Minnesota. Right?
Okay. Well, I'm really more worried about who's better. I mean, we know the motivations. Everybody wants to beat Ohio State. Everybody in the Big Ten always has to go through Ohio State to where they want to go. I'll go next. I think it might be Minnesota now. Ryan Leaf, he got drafted in the NFL. He tweeted during the game that Tanner Morgan is the best quarterback in the Big Ten. And it was like, maybe Justin Fields would like to look at that tweet. Tanner Morgan is super efficient. I think he threw for more than 300 yards against Penn State. Minnesota has good receivers. People were worried about Penn State's secondary. I think that did get proven today in this loss. We've been waiting. We've been thinking that the first quarterback that's going to test Ohio State is going to be Jalen Hurts or Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, or Trevor Lawrence. Maybe it's Tanner Morgan. I don't know. I never would have thought that this is where we were going to be. But Penn State, I think, showed some vulnerabilities in its secondary that were already there, but that Justin Fields might be able to exploit. But also that Minnesota passing game might be legit. Going to Michigan's going to be tough. But who would have thought it? I think it's very possible Minnesota, at the very least, would be a more competitive, tougher opponent in the Big Ten championship than Northwestern was last year. So I'll say Minnesota. Who do you say, Nathan?
I'm going to pick the Gophers, too, and it's because if you look back at the formula that's there for the teams from the West that have beaten Ohio State in the last couple of years, it's NFL skill talent, which is starting to look like Minnesota probably has in that receiving core. It's a coach that knows how to win, which P.J. Fleck clearly knows how to win. I think he's absolutely proven it now at Minnesota as well. I'm eating crow as somebody who's been ranking them lower than Minnesota fans would like. And it's not going to be at home if Ohio State plays them. And also, there's always an X factor. There's always something else going on. And I think in that situation, you're going to be talking about a 12-0 probably Minnesota team, and they're playing for everything at that point. They're going to be the team that around the country is going to have all of this juice behind them for this incredible run that they've put together. They're going to be playing with some kind of an extra spark in a game like that. And they're still also going to be the underdog. They're going to be the team that has everything to gain and nothing to lose playing in a Big Ten championship game against Ohio State. I think that makes them a very dangerous opponent.
I still think it's 90% that Ohio State's going to the playoff. I don't think anyone in scarlet and gray should be shaking in their boots about Minnesota. But I think it is funny that it's possible. All the stuff that is in the heads of Ohio State fans, and I think of Ohio State players about what happened against Iowa and Purdue, and we were looking for who might be that team. I think you might be right. They got brommed last year. It might turn out that they might get flecked in the Big Ten championship game, that they might get rowed right over. Row your boat. I don't know. I mean, it's just weird that it would be a 12-0 team that has those characteristics, but I agree with what you're saying about how that Minnesota team maybe could remind you of Iowa and Purdue in a way that Ohio State wouldn't like. Man, the Big Ten. Fantastic, isn't it? Steven, Nathan, and Doug. See you later at cleveland.com.